Hey up, internet, Black Sofa here with a very, very impromptu open live stream where I'll be doing a brief atheist Bible study um, entitled Was Jesus Racist? And before I get into it, I just want to say this is an open stream. This is an open Hangout. Um, if you would like to, to join and discuss this controversial topic, and then please, don't hesitate to DM me on Twitter, and I'll send you a link, and we'll discuss this. But without further ado, I'll begin the study. And I'm reading from the New Testament, the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 15, verses 21 onwards. Jesus then left Galilee and went north to the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Gentile woman who lived there came to him, pleading, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David, for my daughter has a demon in her, and it's severely tormenting her." But Jesus gave no reply, not even a word. Then his disciples urged him to send her away. "Tell her to leave," they said. "She is bothering us with all her begging." Then he said to the woman, "I was sent only to help the people of Israel, God's lost sheep, not the Gentiles." But she came and worshipped him and pleaded again, "Lord, help me. It isn't right to take food from the children and throw it to the dogs." He said, "Yes, Lord," she replied, "but even dogs are permitted to eat crumbs that fall beneath their master's table." "Woman," Jesus said to her, "your faith is great. Your request is granted." And her daughter was instantly healed. Okay, so that's from Matthew chapter 15, verses 21 to 28. And I'm reading from the Living Water translation with new anglicized text. So I always used to struggle with this passage, even when I was a Christian, because I couldn't reconcile the love of Jesus, Jesus, all forgiving, all loving, Jesus Christ, with the with this, because he comes across as a dick. There's no two ways about it. And I couldn't get my head around it, even as a Christian. And let me, just read through the passage again, but, pause, along the way, and we'll see if we can make head nor tail of this. See if we can work out what's going on here. Oh, so Jesus Jesus then left Galilee and went north to the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Gentile or Canaanite woman who lived there came to him, pleading, "Lord, have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David." And Son of David is a messianic title that was given to Jesus. And And so she, a Gentile woman, a Canaanite, is recognized, is calling him the Messiah, basically. Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David, for my daughter has a demon in her, and it is severely tormenting her. Which is, quite a familiar request that was made to Jesus, apparently, throughout his earthly ministry. Legend has it that he often would cast out demons. So this is nothing new. He's cast out several demons before from other people. So you'd expect him to cast out, this demon as well. But he doesn't answer her. But Jesus gave her no reply, not even a word. And so evidently when Jesus ignored her, she started pestering his disciples. And eventually they get fed up with it. And they say to Jesus, tell her to leave. Send her away. She's bothering us with all her begging. So then Jesus said to the woman, I was sent only to help the people of Israel. God's lost sheep, not the Gentiles. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but this seems like discrimination. Maybe not racism. Maybe racism is too strong a word, but certainly discrimination against another. Well, I guess it is racism. I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible. I'm trying to be as generous as possible, but yeah, not that Jesus said this. It's more, but certainly, whoever wrote this, this gospel, we don't know that it was Matthew. It was just given the name Matthew after, by the church afterwards. But whoever wrote this was certainly prejudiced against Gentiles, against non-Jews. And he definitely, if you read through the Gospel of Matthew, he definitely has, he definitely seems to have an anti-Gentile agenda. He seems to be writing predominantly to Jews who obviously had some beef that this new faith, this new sect was just for Gentiles only, and that Jesus was anti-Jewish. Maybe he was leaving the Jews out. He was. They seem to be complaining that this new sect was against Jews, against Moses. That Jesus was going to do away, had done, or his followers at least were doing away with the law of Moses. And so it seems that, let's call him Matthew for argument's sake. Matthew wrote his gospel to correct that. So he has a very pro-Jewish, anti-Gentile agenda. He seems to be, and so he seems to be putting words into Jesus's mouth that are prejudiced against Gentiles. And then he's making him sound like a bit of a dick, a lot of a dick. He ignores it at first. It's not until his disciples, fed up with this woman begging them, pestering them, approach him, say, look, send her away. She's bugging the fuck out of us. She's really annoying. Just tell her to go away. Tell her to stop pestering us, stop begging. It's not until they complain that eventually he turns to her and says, okay, I was sent only to help my fellow Jews, my fellow Israelites. We're the people of God, not you Gentiles. But she came and worshipped him. I don't know how that worship manifested itself. Actually, maybe she knelt down and singing to him, praying. I love you, Jesus. All the rest of it. I don't know. But I'm being a bit facetious, but she worshipped him, and she continued to plead and beg him for mercy, saying, Lord, help me. And then he says this. He says, it isn't right to take food from the children and throw it to the dogs. To the dogs. He calls her and her people dogs. Let that sink in for a bit. And it really bothered me as a Christian, and I think it should bother people who still are Christians, who may be watching this. Jesus is calling another people group dogs. I suppose you could argue that he's not directly calling them dogs, but he's certainly saying that they're like dogs. He's comparing them with dogs. It certainly doesn't look good for him. However you look at this, however you try to spin this, he's saying that they're less than human. That's basically what he's saying. And imagine, well, you probably don't have to imagine Donald Trump saying, Mexicans are dogs. It's not right for dogs to come and live in this country. Imagine if he said something like that. Well, some of he has. So, there'd be uproar, and there has been uproar against Donald Trump, and rightly so. So why not the same uproar against Jesus for saying this about this Gentile woman and her people, calling them dogs? Not right to take food. They're supposed to. Okay, let's break this down. What is he saying? He's saying she is asking for healing. For his magic touch, basically. And what he's saying is I was only sent to the children of God, my fellow Israelites. It's not right for me to cast my magic spells on people who aren't Jewish. My magic is for the Jews only. It's not for you dogs. That's what he's saying. And it's not until she acknowledges, that she acknowledges that she's one of the dogs, that she's subhuman, that he agrees to help her. And she says, yeah, you're right. You're right. He basically says, you're right. You are a dog. Thank you. Well done for admitting, how, that you're, how low you are beneath me. Well done for agreeing with me that you're a dog, because your faith is great. Your request is granted. And her daughter was instantly healed. How the writer knows this. I don't know, because the daughter wasn't with her. You can make of that what you will. So, what do you guys think? I want to open this up for discussion. Oh, I've got a mess. I have actually got a message. Let's see. Oh, a message from Frustrated Atheist. Okay, I'll send you a link. I'll link you up. Hang on, bear with me. How do I do this? I didn't think this through. Hang on. Oh yeah, invite people. Here we go. Right. Okay. So. Oh, I'm such a numpty. Right. Okay. So. Do. Okay. Hopefully that should work. And Folio. So I've sent another Frustrated Atheist the link, so hopefully he'll be joining us. But let's see. Do we have any questions from chat? Oh, if I can. Yeah. Okay, we've got a spooky bed here. And Shane. Can't spell. It would be an improvement in his rhetoric. Mike, you seem to have hair on your face. From another freaking atheist. Yes. Yes.
Hello.
Hi. How's it going?
Just another day in paradise.
Cool. So I don't know if you've been following what I've been saying, but what do you think? What's your take on this?
The story of Jesus calling someone a dog.
Yeah.
I had to hear it again. I was kind of half in, half out.
Oh, okay. So for the sake of for the sake of Frustrated Atheist, I've been reading from Matthew chapter 15, verses 21 onwards. It says this: Jesus then left Galilee and went north to the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Gentile woman who lived there came to him pleading, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, son of David, for my daughter has a demon in her and is severely tormenting her." But Jesus gave her no reply, not even a word. Then his disciples urged him to send her away. "Tell her to leave," they said. "She's bothering us with all her begging." Then he said to the woman, "I was sent only to help the people of Israel, God's lost sheep, not the Gentiles." But she came and worshipped him and pleaded again, "Lord, help me. It isn't right to take food from the children and throw it to the dogs," he said. "Yes, Lord," she replied, "but even dogs are permitted to eat crumbs that fall beneath their master's table." "Woman," Jesus said to her, "your faith is great. Your request is granted." and her daughter was instantly healed. So what are we to make of this?
Well, he has he did say he was in a way calling her a dog as part of the analogy.
Mm.
Um, which is exactly what that was. Is he was using an analogy to compare um, her to the Gentiles to the not as a dog, and
Mm.
I don't think it was necessarily just her in particular. I think he might have been referring mainly to the Gentiles as a whole.
Yeah, yeah,
So um, it's it's definitely a messed up analogy as far as comparing humans to animals, but at the same time, it's I wouldn't necessarily classify it as calling her a dog.
no, I don't think he's calling her personally a dog, but he certainly seemed to be calling her people dogs. You know, and not that he actually said or did this, but certainly the writer of this gospel has it seems to have a low opinion of Gentiles, um,
Mm,
and I think that was quite common in those days for for, for for Jews to refer to Gentiles as dogs. And
um,
sorry, go on, go.
well, I do think that in uh, in a way that's kind of correct, as in the Jews were God's chosen, and so that automatically puts you above everyone else. So you have a Gentile come up to you, and automatically in your kind of mindset, they are beneath you
Yeah,
because they are not God's chosen.
yeah, exactly. And
Um, which could be another, the whole entire thing that goes back to the analogy of the fact that the dog is beneath the master.
yeah, and this is this is exactly it. And it just says to me that this is this is not the word of God. It's the work of flawed human beings.
Yeah,
And
because at, uh, hold on, I'm reading something that KC just said in the chat. She said that's an interesting thing about Christianity and religion in general. They think
oh
they are
yeah,
better than, more moral, superior to everyone else,
yeah,
which is true.
yeah,
Um, and some of the worst things about religion in general is not only that they feel that way, but at the same time they won't flat out say it, because then it shows that they're not being humble. So they will say things like that they have morals and all that, and that they are better than you in a way, but be like, but just how can I'm trying to find the right words to use here. Um, um, and say, and this isn't my. They'll say things like, "This isn't my opinion. This is because
yeah,
it's God's word," type of thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They think they can be as rude to you as they like, or as obnoxious as they like, or as offensive as they like. They say, no, no, it's not me. It's not me.
And
It's
that
the
and that's
Bible.
true, Casey. And that's true, Casey. There are plenty that will flat out say it.
Yeah,
Oh no, Casey, I'm from Texas, so I do know quite a few people who will do that.
yeah. You're not from the US South, are you? Oh yeah. And you just answered. You're from Texas.
Yeah, so and I do know quite a few people who are like that, but at the same time, um, oh sorry, I have something tickling in the back of my throat.
All right.
Yes, yes, Casey, we are a mess. We are definitely a mess. And one of the bad things about I've said I've said this several times. One of the biggest things that I don't like about Texas is the fact that we do have every kind of resource to be our own like country type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But if that were to happen, we would have people in power that that will make it more of a theocratic government, and everything that we've worked hard for to get, as far as our rights, individual rights for say homosexuals, or even for the non-religious people, would probably disappear fairly quickly. And
Yeah.
that it probably is a bad thing about Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she really doesn't. She says, "I don't have much room. I'm in Alabama," which is another really, really religious place.
Yeah. So I've heard. Yeah. And Shane is quoting from Chrysostom.
Mm.
Behold, the woman's wisdom. She did not venture so much as to say a word against anyone else. She was not stunned to see others praised, nor was she indignant to be reproached. Right. Um, I don't know what to say to that, really. Yeah. There's, I think that, I guess there's John Chrysostom, commenting on this passage that we've just been looking at. Um, Saying how wise this woman was, that she didn't complain when she was being discriminated against. I guess
Mm.
that makes her wise. Interesting.
Yeah, and I'm just over here chit chatting with KC because she said that the U.S. can't lose Texas anyways. The federal government would never allow it to happen. And I was like, definitely not. And then she's like, the income we make from Texas alone, if lost, would probably bankrupt the U.S. And
All right.
that is a true statement.
Yeah.
We there's a lot of resources here in Texas alone that really helps fuel the economy here.
All right.
Oh, Shane said simply noting earlier Christian apologetics.
Okay. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah,
No,
that's
that
really,
is pretty interesting.
yeah. I I did learn a bit about Chrysostom. I remember his name coming up anyway when I was at Bible college, funnily enough. I think I did read some of his apologetics. Yeah. Um,
Mm.
so yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Shane. That's good. Good. Yeah, but good stuff. Um,
Mhm. So, are we going back to the Bible study now?
yeah. So we've gone off on a bit of a
Yeah,
tangent.
we kind of went off on the rails here.
So, and yeah, so what are your thoughts on this passage? Because I used to struggle with this even as a Christian. I thought Jesus is not being.
Yeah, because the analogy, like I said, is definitely a messed up one comparing what at the time would have been a very kind of almost insult at another person about the calling them a dog because in their mindset dogs were lesser life forms, yada
Yeah,
yada yada.
yeah,
And so to compare one to a dog would be, even in an analogy, would be kind of messed up. Whereas he could have said something about how they're like a child, or something like that.
yeah,
He definitely could have made, if he could have definitely made a more humanitarian style analogy, but he chose one that made it feel as if the people were than lesser than human, really.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, it's funny you should mention children because I don't know if I can screen share this. Yeah, hang on. Oh lordy. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so I've got this kind of resource here. Yeah, it says dogs, tois cunarios, to the little dogs, lap dogs, etc.
Mm.
And I think in another Greek dictionary I've seen, it says that this word, this Greek word is more like a puppy. It says here, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so he's calling them puppies. What do you make of that?
Let me see. Oh, can you pull that back up?
Oh, sorry. Um,
I had to read the entire thing in context.
okay, so okay, I'll bring it back up. Okay.
Okay. But he answered and said, "It is not meet to take the children's bread and to cast it to the puppies." Hmm. Um.
This is from the
Well.
King James version. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's just I don't really think that makes a difference calling
yeah.
it whether it be a big dog or a puppy, uh, an adult or a child dog. I really don't think it really makes a difference. That
No,
alone,
but
and you got to think that this is. You said that this was translation from Greek,
yeah, yeah,
and Greek is I'm actually was been listening to Digital Hammurabi, and they're teaching how to read cuneiform,
okay,
and it's the translation could have meant either or, um, and so they could have been talking about an actual adult dog, or they could have been talking about a puppy, which, regardless, like I said, doesn't really change the meaning to the text alone.
yeah. I mean, this is only anecdotal, um, but my at Bible college, my Greek tutor said he told us, but I haven't been able to verify this, because I've looked into it. He told us that these Greek words that we've just been talking about um,
Mm-hmm.
is actually a derogatory term. It's closer to the term bitch.
Ah, so that term about being a dog in there could have been referring to that. In which case, if it is meant to be derogatory in that way, then that definitely is a horrible analogy to put forth. Um, if you were meaning complete and utter, um, offense to whatever you're trying to convey.
Hmm. Yeah, and like I said, I will haven't been able to verify that interpretation. But anyway, but I think you're right. Any way you look at it, it's not very. It doesn't make Jesus look very good.
No, because like I said, there's several different other things that he could have done, and made it more, um, like I said, more humanitarian, where he could have, said he could have done an analogy that had nothing to do with comparing comparing Gentiles to dogs, which back then was a lesser life form that was no different than any other lesser life form, and making you feel more superior to them. There's definitely several different analogies he could have used.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and the point I want to make is this passage for me highlights the fact that these books, these gospels were just written by human beings because I, it seems to me that if these gospels, or indeed if any of the books of the Bible were inspired by the Holy Spirit, by God Himself, then
Mm-hmm.
He would have inspired, whoever wrote this gospel. He would have, if it was me anyway, if I were God, I would have said, "Hang on, you're making my son look like a dick. You're
Right.
making him look like an arsehole. Don't write that."
Or even if you go as far as to say that the Holy Spirit, God, and Jesus are all one person. It's like, still, hey, you're making me look like I'm a dick here.
Yeah, yeah,
So, regardless, either way, if it is an actual son or if it is him,
yeah.
you're still would making causing offense. But
And Jesus, God's message, in my opinion, should be universal. It should be universally understood, and for all
mhm.
generations, past,
Yeah,
present, future.
which was one of the biggest things that I don't get is whenever people, will go on saying that, oh, God is not the author of confusion, and then turn around and also say, whenever you take a literal reading of the Bible and say, oh, well, you're just misinterpreting it. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, so then how do I get to the point of not misinterpreting it? Oh, well, you have to study it. Well, if he's not the author of confusion, I should be able to take the book at face value.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it should be, it should the Bible, if it is God's message for mankind, for humankind, it
Hmm.
should be approachable. Even a lay person, any lay person of any age should be able to pick up this book and understand it without needing uh, a scholar, a theologian to explain it to them.
Hmm. And that's the biggest thing is that it should be that way.
Hmm.
But It's not, which then leads you to wonder, are you 100% sure this is the inspired word of God?
Yeah.
Because if it was the inspired word of God, then no matter what these human beings wrote, it would be written by God through men.
Yeah.
So he would make sure that these words were not able to be confused in any way, shape, or form. And yet, supposedly, they are.
Yeah. Steve Bauman makes the point. He says the Gospels seem to be written by not very bright people on many different drugs. And then he says,
Yes.
I don't know, Yahweh is kind of an ass, so
Yeah, he definitely is. I mean, if you think about it, and Casey will probably correct me if I'm wrong, if she's still here, that he was in a wrestling match with Jacob and was losing, so decided to pretty much nut shot him, and Jacob still didn't stop, so he finally was like, "Okay, I give."
yeah.
I mean, that alone there, being all powerful and all loving and whatnot, and yet he's gonna wrestle someone and then do a cheap trick to try to win.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
that's an ass. That's a dick move, really.
yeah,
Let's face that.
uh, yeah. So, I mean, that reminds me of the old, favorite question. Can God create a stone so heavy that he can't lift it? Well, he managed to create a human being so strong that he couldn't beat him in a wrestling match.
Right.
um,
Uh,
yeah,
that that's always a funny thing.
yeah.
Just he couldn't win, so yep. Just gonna tap. Just do a little nut tap real quick.
Yes. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up. But thanks for joining me. Uh,
Oh, not a
um,
problem.
and yeah, I speak. I'm sorry to everyone for the short notice. Perhaps if I'd given people more note, but I wanted it to be kind of, off the cuff and impromptu and kind of surprise.
Right.
Yeah. But and thanks for everyone watching at home or wherever you happen to be, or sat in the toilet or whatever.
Let's let's face it, most of your YouTube watching, if you're on your phone, is done on the toilet.
Of course, yeah. And I'm gonna, wrap things up. So, if you've liked this video, then give it a thumbs up, and as always, thanks for watching.